Just watch how effective manual override mode is through the Monaco tunnel to make an overtake. Oh, that's unbelievable. Today, we're testing out if the 2026 F1 regulations can save racing at the Monaco Grand Prix. Next year, the cars are getting slightly smaller and lighter with active aero now a thing. No more DRS. The front wing and the rear wing will move in unison automatically with the car system. With lower downforce, with about a reduction of 30% and 55% less drag, racing should be improved. But the new engine regulations with a 50-50 split of ICE and electrical power and things like the manual override mode or MOM have put up for debate how good these regulation changes are going to be. But if they're going to be effective anywhere, we're hoping it's going to be Monaco. Let's test it out. 7 laps around the Principality to see if we can go racing and overtakes are possible with this all-new formula of engine and aero as we're underway. It's lights out. It's going to be a bit of a gingerly start and a slow one to figure out where the rim is, but almost immediately, I think you'll agree, visually, you can see these smaller cars just ever so slightly. It makes a huge difference, you know, that the cars actually don't look like massive boats in comparison to these streets around Monaco. We can actually go side by side for majority of the entire track as the Ferrari has a little bit of an issue. Good to know in 2026 the Ferrari still has a loopy rear end, but we just made a pretty nifty double overtake there, threading the needle into the hairpin. Is going to be a little bit of congestion, traffic at the hairpin, as it always is around Monaco. I don't think anything will solve that problem, but the problem these regulations are trying to solve is just allowing the overtaking opportunity where it may not be, because this is override mode used in the tunnel, albeit the AI probably aren't simulating override mode very well, but it is that powerful. It is going to be that powerful in real life where it could make that difference with all drivers having it. You know, it's not going to be that powerful in practice because they'll be able to use it for defense as well, but it's nice to know there may be opportunities like that as we get on the curb and all crossed up. We've held it quite well and the walls helped us out to keep it going in a straight line, and now we're locked into a battle with Ollie Behrman, and it allows us to pull off the infamous down the inside La Rascasse pass. Doesn't matter what game it is in Formula 1, I love a good Rascasse dive bomb as we use the active aero. It says DRS on the bottom right, but it is the front and rear wing. There's a big issue at turn 1. A Ferrari in the wall. Is it Leclerc? Is it Hamilton? Who knows? I think it may have been Charles Leclerc, as it is disaster for the home favourite potentially, because I think Hamilton already got crossed up a little bit earlier on in the lap. I'm losing the back end so many times because these cars are so susceptible to bumps. At least here in the Assetto Corsa simulation, it is. If it's like this in real life, if they're on a knife edge like this, as the Williams has got it all crossed up now at the hairpin, if they're like this, like on edge and bouncy and a little bit nimble, I think in a good way we're finally going to get back to actually being able to use the phrase factually correctly when drivers are dancing the car around Monaco, or you know, they're on that edge, absolute limit, and they're actually able to play around a little bit with the car mid-corner. It's not just one guaranteed swoop of movement because the car is sucked to the ground with the ground effect. It's such a heavy, cumbersome load at low speed. And I think hopefully we'll get back to a little bit of, you know, that actual movement going on to maybe correct your line, get a bit of a tighter entry and then exit. And you can see here in defense as well, may work out as Fernando Alonso is actually putting up a good defense. We're both using active aero here on the inside as well. Look at that. Fernando drifts it into turn 1, stays ahead. We then use a little bit of battery to get us ahead, and that's the kind of tactical racing we may see in real life, is one driver using battery here and there. And we've seen so many drivers in real life already saying, speculating, that may be a thing, that there may be overtakes where you just don't expect them just because of that discrepancy of battery. I think even earlier, this week even, Toto Wolff said that maybe the drivers who are used to simulators and have that kind of ability to use the simulator to, you know, play around with that 4D chess play, might actually be better suited, you know, because they'll be able to play out those scenarios in this simulator that maybe, you know, how used are we when we play the F1 games? I know it sounds silly to say, but when we play the F1 game, how used to it are we of really trying to manipulate ERS as effectively as possible to make overtakes. That sort of meta seems like it actually might happen in real life, where they're constantly flicking modes and making sure they use override mode in the best way, as we've done. We just passed Gasly there into Tabak, and that was, again, tactically using it. Here versus Antonelli, we're not using override mode. We're just wanting to see how good we can get through just maybe without the override mode. But again, kind of using it sparingly, using it at the right time. And actually saying that, I've actually come into a scenario that may happen in real life in Monaco. Look at the bottom right. I used override mode up the hill. I ran out of battery. I've been on pretty low recovery mode on the MGK recovery. I've now bumped it up to 90%. So this may happen in places like Monaco, where there's actually not a lot of recovery you can do, maybe because the brake zones, although yes, there's a lot of them, you're not going into them very quickly. So you're maybe not able to recover as much K energy as you would around other circuits. So I'm now desperately trying to find the energy back in the car. We've overtaken Antonelli at the hairpin. Again, unorthodox places to make moves. Will the slightly smaller cars allow racing around at the hairpin? You hope so, but in reality, maybe it will be a little bit tougher. But yeah, this is a scenario that may happen in real life, where I'm now having to spend a lap or two behind a car, just gaining back energy to then use override mode again. And at the same time, the driver ahead then may use that as a way to defend. You know, Verstappen's AI here brake checking us a little bit into Raskas, trying to force us behind. We're going to both open active aero and down this straight, getting that drag reduction. And by the way, that's why they're not calling it DRS anymore, because DRS was to overtake a car, whereas the active aero, although technically the DRS flap on the rear is still opening, because the front is also opening, and because it's a automatic sort of thing that every driver is going to be doing every single lap, unless it's raining. You know, that's why it's not really, you know, appropriate to maybe use the DRS name. At least that's the debate that's actually been happening literally yesterday, I think, in the media as I post this. So there may be a change to the name yet. So far, we've been having a bit of fun using the MOM, the MOM naming, but they may be using a different name officially by the time we actually get into 2026, because of course, as everything with Formula 1 and FI, they're debating it to no end. But here we are down the inside of Verstappen, and Verstappen's AI is giving us a real good fight, to be fair. Defensive masterclass from the Dutchman. I've now got 100% battery on the bottom, by the way, so now we'll be able to use override mode on the main straight, although may not need it, as we just went from the right to the left. Lovely little switch back into the swimming pool section. Verstappen comes back. This has actually turned into an absolutely sensational battle with Verstappen in the Red Bull Ford. We're in the Cadillac, both of us with the active aero open, but now we're going to use the MOM, the manual override mode, and power up the hill. Bit of high battery, actually didn't even need MOM. We just needed high battery, but we're using override now to try and catch up to Piastri, but I'm going to overcook it, hit the wall, send it into a tank slapper, and we've got it all crossed up. Very similar scenes to what we had in Kadir, where I'm just pushing a bit too hard, but we are going to... Beautiful. Stuck the landing. 10 out of 10 flip there to get the car righted again. Yeah, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of this maybe with the 26 DLC on F1 25 when that comes out next year. I think these cars, when you get it wrong, I think they're going to bite a lot more than the current generation do, just because it's a little bit nimbler. There's so much battery and torque going on sometimes. I think the mistakes you have are going to be pretty big, as we still survived in second place. Antonelli's actually overtaken Verstappen for third, and Oscar Piastri is going to be one that wins this one today in the McLaren. So if you're keeping score, so far it's been 2 McLaren and 1 Mercedes wins in the 2026 testing. So the Mercedes power unit coming up on top in these tests so far. But I think we had some fun around Monaco, and I'm actually maybe a bit hopeful that there could be some genuine actual improvements in racing to the Monaco GP with the 2026 regs, and remembering that there's also maybe still a mandatory 2-stop added in as well. So I think, you know, let's be a little bit low-key confident that it might be a better time around Monaco than it has been in recent years. But guys, if you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.